And our inspiring keynote this morning asked us to imagine India in 2047. Then what comes next is about grounding that vision in where we stand today with the numbers, the size, and the shape of our industry right now.
And to take us through this, we have Vidya Sen, who chairs this subcommittee for MRSI. Vidya Sen is the Executive Director at NielsenIQ, where she leads the basis vertical for India. A veteran in the market research field, she has worked across agencies, including MARG, Ipsos, and NielsenIQ, partnering with leading names in the FMCG space on their innovation journeys. She's also presented at this very seminar many times before, so it's exciting to see her on the other side. So please join us in welcoming her.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know I stand between you and the bar, but I request you to lend me your eyes and ears for the next 10 minutes, because what I'm going to talk about now is about this industry that we are all passionate about in some way or the other. So yes, I'm going to talk about the sizing and segmentation study that MRSI has been carrying out over the years. As many of you would be aware, in 2021 was when MRSI pioneered the comprehensive report that served as a baseline for us. So this report covered, it sized the industry, it segmented it, it looked at how the different segments within the industry were growing, and what were the, factors and trends that were impacting the growth of this industry. But after 2021, we have been carrying out updates every year, updating the key metrics so that we know what the growth rate is and where the industry is growing that year. Perhaps, pretty soon we will also be carrying out another baseline study. What I'm going to be sharing today are a few snippets that came out from the update that we carried out in 2025, along with our research partner, AGR Knowledge Services. We used a methodology of, secondary research, expert interviews, and some focused primary research interviews. So what did we learn? One is this, of course, the slide that Nitin shared in the morning. The industry is growing at a rate of 10.9%, kind of very similar to, very close to what we had predicted the growth would be last year. And even the year before, our growth rate was around at the same level. So, while we are growing, we are not seeing the kind of growth that we saw in 2022, which was perhaps impacted by, a lot of factors post-pandemic. Now, what is exactly driving this growth? If you look at this chart, what it tells you is that the biggest contribution is actually coming from international. So when I say international, I'm talking about research outsourced, to other countries, foreign companies carrying out research with their hubs or their captive centers in India. So 81% is actually coming from there, 19% contributed by the domestic market. As you can see, over the years, the contribution of international has actually grown, and the growth rate of this is also much higher than the industry average, whereas the domestic market is actually, the growth is much lesser. Another thing that MRSI does is, when we look at the construct of this industry, we like to think of it as constituting of 3 different service lines. So one is custom MR, that all of us who work in the traditional, big 4 market research companies are very aware of. And then you have analytics and, of course, the syndicated and publishing part of the business. Now, if you look at it, analytics today actually contributes to 60% of that 3.5 billion that we saw was the size of the industry on the earlier chart. Custom MR, the contribution is about 28%. If I look at 2021, the share of custom MR was about 32% and that of analytics was about 52%. So analytics has actually grown from 52% to a 60% share of this growing industry, which just tells you, where we are going, and the share and the growth of syndicated has actually come down. What are the sectors? Sorry, I think. Yeah, what are the sectors that are growing? What are the verticals that are actually contributing to this growth? You can see that FMCG and retail has a lion's share of the business that we do here, and also growing at a healthy rate of 12%, followed by BFSI. Tech used to be number 2 earlier, but it's dropped down a bit, and the growth rate has also is below the average. What is interesting is that healthcare as a sector is actually increasing in its contribution compared to where it was 5 years back, and it's also growing at a healthy rate. Another thing that we did was, as I mentioned in the beginning, we spoke to a lot of experts and got their views on, where this industry is actually poised to grow. So the outlook for next year is again, believed to be about somewhere in the vicinity of 10 to 12%. And you can bet that analytics will be, increasing its share and contributing significantly to this growth. And other factors that came up were, the industry today is obviously characterized by the increasing use of generative AI, which is something that all of us have been witnessing in all the papers that we listen to since morning. AI is being used not only to drive efficiency through automation, it's also used to kind of, create synthetic data to simulate respondents in hard to get segments, and various other areas where AI is being used in this industry. The second thing is, which we already saw, growth from international clients will continue to drive the demand. Now, these international clients perhaps earlier were doing large-scale surveys, but today they are looking at synthesizing data from diverse sources. They're also looking for rapid and agile research, leveraging generative AI, and many of them are actually setting up operations in India. So more work is expected to be assigned to the captive units of these agencies here. And of course, the growth in domestic market will continue because of the rising demand for hyperlocal insights, which we saw Ramki talk about. Like we want to understand India at every district level. Secondly, the domestic industry has also reached a stage of digital maturity. I don't think there is a single agency that does not use AI, tech or platforms in the way they do research today. So these were the snippets that I wanted to share with you. And I also wanted to say that behind this report, there were, a lot of contributors, the least of them being our Director General and the President of the MRSI, Mithali and Nitin, and of course our research partner. I also want to leave you with the thought that perhaps in the next year or a couple of years from now, we will be doing that baseline study once again. And I would just like to request all of you to extend a hand of cooperation to the MRSI rep who approaches you to ask for information which you might think is very confidential, but I assure you that it's all kept very anonymous. It only helps us understand, where our industry is going. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much, all of you.